All right, Khaula. So I have a very interesting question for you today. So are these LLMs like ChatGPT, Grok, like all these others out there, are they making us smarter or dumber?
Uh, I think it depends because I like to think that if you were already intelligent before all these AI tools came up, then it might make you smarter. But if you felt that you were already not smart before, or probably not have that high level of intelligence, then it might make you feel like, oh, just repeating what I'm thinking and saying out there. But what is most disturbing is that, or rather, I'm a bit disappointed how some people just feed ChatGPT like they are on an autopilot, right? They are not, they're just feeding the prompt, looking at, oh, it looks perfect or over perfect. Let me just use it right away. And then I think on that note, it really affects your thinking here because the generated response as a human being, you have to be intelligent enough, if you are, to figure out is the response something that is generated by ChatGPT or it is me doing it better than that. What I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And it's not just, you thinking along these lines. Like there are actual studies out there that have been kind of, delving into thinking about like what's the impact of ChatGPT on the way we think and how much we use our mind and on
Yeah,
our creativity and originality. There are a lot of like conversations out there which say that the output of ChatGPT is tasteless when there is no kind of human intervention there in those cases. And
yeah,
I mean, you look at LinkedIn and you'd see like a lot of posts out there are, it's very clear that they were just generated by AI
yep,
and there was very little to no involvement by us. So there's an interesting study I want to kind of mention, which I came across. So MIT actually did a kind of test on this, where they basically had three groups write
right,
essays on different topics. So these kind of range from philosophical topics to like historical ones, and the first group was allowed to use ChatGPT
right.
to kind of create these essays. Then there was the second group which was not allowed to use GPT for it, or any other LLM for that
Hello,
matter,
yeah,
like
yeah,
Perplexity, or like we have so many now that I'm
yeah,
just gonna say ChatGPT for LLM,
yep,
right?
yep.
So, and then the third group was allowed to use Google,
Oh,
just kind of, to Google sources and, articles out there, but not still they weren't allowed to use ChatGPT, right? So imagine which group did the worst in terms of output quality, in terms of originality, and all of that. The ChatGPT one. To the extent that the different people who were using ChatGPT to write their essays, all their essays sounded similar.
oh,
And
wow.
all of them were very clear. It was very clear from going through it that there wasn't much thought put into it. So while the users were allowed to use ChatGPT, they weren't told that they absolutely have to use it completely from scratch. That group automatically just used ChatGPT and depended solely on it for kind of coming up with the overall kind of thoughts and arguments and all of that. And their creativity was very limited. The group that did not use ChatGPT was the most creative and original.
Uh,
And in the end, they also had the most interesting insights and interesting ways that the arguments were kind of framed because they had to use their mind and they were forced to do that
yep,
in their case. The third group's performance was also similar. They also use their mind and use kind of their thought process and like their creativity along with supplementing it with what Google was providing it.
uh,
So it's
yeah,
interesting to see that it is not even just about, having access to online sources. It is specifically LLMs
yep,
that in the end, once we use them, we just are so convinced with the output that they come up with that sometimes, there's a group of people who just like completely outsource their
yep.
thinking and all of that to it. So yeah, like That's one study. Then there's another case, like I was just going through it, in which, even in education,
Oh
like,
yeah.
new students, primary schools, secondary schools, there are like our new generations. I think the newest one is Gen Alpha is pretty much using Chat GPT as well, right? It's so accessible. And once they kind of come back with these, like AI assisted essays, or whatever like you do at like these early kind of stages of education, the teachers are now requiring students to state what is AI generated and what isn't, and also substantiate with argumentation why they actually use Chat GPT as well,
Yeah.
right? But you would be able to kind of comment better on the education space and the impact of ChatGPT on like various levels. So I'll kind of,
Yeah.
hand over the field to you.
Yeah, I'm actually dealing with what we have been historically using that word cognitive dissonance, which means that your thinking is no longer being in that way it should have been by way of your developmental milestone from a neurological perspective. But if I have to quickly jump up from primary to higher education because I'm in this space, the fact that
Hmm.
universities or like grad schools, they are not really penalizing you for using AI tools. However, if they do not want you to use AI in any form, the fine print is right there. It's very bold, it's fine print right there. However, what happens is, and this is quite an interesting thing to know, that if you get rejected because by default you use AI in the way it should not have been, then you get rejected, but the ugly truth to that is they do not share the reason for those rejections. So in a way, I'm just
Hmm.
propagating that you use AI sensibly, and that reminds me that you had something to say that how you use AI sensibly, given you are a product manager here.
Yeah. So I'll say like let's keep it to the use of LLM instead of like general AI, because I've also kind of worked on implementing AI and machine learning enabled kind of features, but I'll specifically talk about an LLM use case. And this is where like the flip side is, right? Like if you need to be smart about how you use these LLMs. And these LLMs are not just about writing content.
Yeah.
There's so much more that you can do with them. So I'll talk about one particular use case here. Thanks to, like some really interesting engineering kind of resources that have lots of kind of syncs with, and they gave me this idea and then we implemented this as well. So what happened is like there's a concept called RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation,
Okay.
and using it with ChatGPT. Now, let me explain what we did, right? So that would explain how RAG and ChatGPT work together. So imagine when, like in our healthcare system, if you're a new patient and you're going to a particular clinic or to a hospital, there are so many there's so much history that you have with respect to kind of tests, medications. The older you get, the more kind of patient history there is. There's a lot of that going on. Now, if you go to a new clinic or hospital, how do they get access to all that information?
Yeah.
Healthcare systems worldwide aren't that great, right? They're not well connected with each other. It's not even about just Pakistan. Even in US, the healthcare system is not that well connected. So what in the end happens is like these clinics and hospitals have to request all this documentation, and then they receive a pile of documentation, especially for seniors, and in the end, they have to sift through that to update their records, or they have to ask the patient. But what if the patient doesn't know? Right? Like, what if the patient doesn't know if they were ever diagnosed with ICD code, 10.1? They don't have any idea what ICD code 10.1 means. Or like, even like if they might know that, yes, they were diagnosed with hypertension, but what kind, right? There's specific kinds. So RAG is basically a way of feeding large chunks of information to ChatGPT, and then you can ask ChatGPT in a very conversation manner specific questions, and it would be able to retrieve that information from those large chunks of data and tell you if something happened or not. So now, if we plug in RAG and ChatGPT into this kind of problem that I mentioned, Imagine a new patient comes in, they have this huge PDF file or huge paper documents, file of paper documents. You just feed it into your kind of, EHR, which is powered by RAG and ChatGPT. All the doctor really has to do is like it's gonna open the ChatGPT chatbot and ask, did this patient ha ever have a breast exam?
Uh,
Or did this patient ever take a particular medication
yeah,
in their whole history? Did they ever do this? And ChatGPT would be able to answer, and it would be able to share the exact source of the document it picked the answer from.
uh, interesting.
So there is no sifting through all those documents. All that time from the medical staff is saved, and even if the medical staff were really fast at doing this, if it's like a 200-page history, it would take ages to come up with an answer for this, right? Because they have to go through all those documents.
Yeah,
And ChatGPT would be able to do it in seconds for
yeah,
any question. And in this case, it wouldn't even hallucinate because when you implement RAG along with an LLM, it only refers to information that it can read from those documents. So
yeah,
it doesn't hallucinate and come
yeah,
up with something new altogether. It would either say that it did not find something,
yeah,
or it would kind of bring that information forward and surface it for the provider or for the nurse to, act on.
yeah,
Real use case of LLMs, right? So yeah, we just have to be creative and smart about like how we use this. That's how it is.
yeah.
So I'm imagining like even in your case, like there must be some super unique and super relevant use cases where like smart people would have used, LLMs in a smart manner.
Yeah, I think if I have to give an example, compared with how you're using advanced in an advanced capacity here, I think I do not use AI, let's say ChatGPT as regularly as I should be. I mean, there's a reason for that. I
Mhm.
really worry about my creativity declining. I want to be able to read the old traditional way. However, with the competition in the market, just highlighting and editing one resume bullet takes me very long. I mean, that is something that ChatGPT can really help me do that efficiently. I mean, it's a boring task if you ask it who wants to sit down for long hours just editing out one bullet item, right? So boring. It takes up so much of your valuable time that you can actually put in towards maybe like prepare yourself for an interview or maybe ask ChatGPT that for this kind of position, here's your question prompt. How can you just digest or break it down for me? Because I know the keyword, but what is happening in the market, it will just quickly find out important sources from across the globe, right? It will tell you, hey, this is how a product manager would do, and this is how you
Yeah,
can aspire to do better here. So I think it
true,
depends.
true.
Just having that balance here, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, true. Specifically, Perplexity is really good at like conducting market research, and I've used
Yeah,
that as a PM. Like when I'm kind of going into a new vertical altogether or a new industry to get the high level idea of what's going on, what are the market trends, versus just Googling news articles.
yeah,
Perplexity would be amazing at giving a coherent and comprehensive kind of response and structured response on what the trends are, and then also linking it back to actual sources online, which then you can kind of go in and read more upon and expand your knowledge further. So it's true.
yeah,
I guess like if we go back to our question, right, which is it making us smarter or dumber? I
yeah,
think the way I would answer this question is it is making smart people smarter,
yeah,
right? For those who are in complete autopilot mode, who are used to kind of putting in the lowest effort possible into any emerging technology, not just about LLMs,
yeah,
in their case, it is definitely going to impact their creativity, their originality, their overall output quality. But that's just how it is, right? Like you have to put in the effort to know what's the best way to utilize a technology.
yeah,
And it's just LLMs have the most potential to put these kinds of people who don't want to put much effort in
yeah, they are
into
dividing.
complete autopilot mode. But you can't blame the LLM or the technology for it,
Yep,
right?
yep,
We need to adapt. And we need to kind of, put in our best effort here.
Yeah.